It took off in 1955, a normal passenger plane. Full of people, full of life, but it never came back. No signal, no crash report, just gone. Then, after 37 years, something strange happened. In 1992, airport radar in Brazil caught an unknown aircraft. Old engines, old paint, it looked like it came from another time. When it landed, there was no sound, no movement. Inside the plane, skeletons sat quietly in their seats. The captain's log showed the date, September 4th, 1955. The world was shocked. People said it was Flight 513, a plane that took off from Germany and landed decades later. But how? Was it a time warp, a secret government test, or just another internet story that got out of hand? No one really knew, but one thing was sure. This story was too strange to ignore. Part 2. The Legend of Flight 513. According to the story, the plane was called Santiago Flight 513. It took off from Aachen, Germany, heading to Porto Alegre, Brazil. Date: September 4th, 1954 or 1955, depending on who tells it. Everything started normal. The weather was clear, the engines worked fine. Then, somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, radio contact stopped. Rescue teams searched for days. They found nothing, no debris, no signal, no clue. After that, the case went cold. Decades later, newspapers began to talk about it again. Some claimed the plane suddenly reappeared in 1992, landing perfectly, but with no living people inside. Others said the story came from a secret government file leaked to tabloids. It was the kind of tale people couldn't forget, a plane that crossed time instead of the sky. The name Flight 513 started showing up everywhere: books, blogs, and paranormal YouTube videos. Some called it a miracle, some called it a lie. But the mystery stayed alive, and with every new post, the legend grew bigger. Part 3. How the myth started. The story of Flight 513 didn't come from official reports. It came from a tabloid newspaper. In October 1989, a magazine called Weekly World News printed the headline, "Plane lands after 35 years. Inside, it described a ghost plane that landed in Brazil with 92 skeletons still in their seats." Readers were shocked, but there was a catch. Weekly World News was known for fictional stories and hoaxes. It was the same magazine that wrote about aliens and time travelers. No airline named Santiago Airlines ever existed. No flight record, no passenger list, no pilot log. Brazilian aviation authorities never confirmed any such incident. Years later, internet blogs picked up the headline again. They added new details: 1955 takeoff, 1990 to landing, time warp. With every post, the story changed a little more. By the time YouTube and social media arrived, the line between fact and fiction had completely disappeared. People started believing in urban legend as if it were real history. Experts from aviation history sites later checked the archives. They found no registration, no radar trace, no missing report that matched Flight 513. It was never real, just a story that looked too real to question. Part 4. Why people believed it. When the story of Flight 513 spread online, people didn't question it, they wanted to believe it. The idea of time travel has always fascinated humans, planes disappearing into clouds and reappearing decades later. It feels like science fiction, but close enough to real life to sound true. The 1980s and 1990s were full of such stories. Movies like Back to the Future and The Twilight Zone made people dream about lost time and strange portals. So when someone said a plane flew into a time warp, the world was ready to listen. Then came the Bermuda Triangle connection. People started saying Flight 513 vanished near the same mysterious zone where other aircraft and ships had disappeared. But again, there was no proof. No coordinates, no records, no black box. Still, the story spread because mystery travels faster than truth. Even today, YouTube channels, TikTok Reels, and blogs still share the returning plane video clips with spooky music and fake newspaper scans. It's not just curiosity, it's hope, hope that maybe, somewhere, the impossible can still happen. When experts began checking the facts, the truth became clear. Flight 513 never existed. There was no Santiago Airlines in aviation history. No registration number, no aircraft record, no flight plan, nothing in German or Brazilian archives. The story came only from a tabloid, not an airline file. No pilot named Miguel Victor Curie, no official airport log, no radar trace ever found. Brazil's Aviation Authority, ANAC, confirmed they had no record of any mysterious landing in 1992. It was pure fiction. Even the photo of the ghost plane was traced back to stock images and movie props. Old black and white edits, not real evidence. Aviation researchers say if a real aircraft had landed after 37 years, it would have created massive global coverage. Not just one magazine story. Experts called it what it was, a modern myth. A story designed to sound believable because it used real-sounding details, dates, airports, and pilot names. But it was never a mystery of science, it was a story about belief, how people trust headlines more than history. Coming next, part 6, we'll explore the psychology behind the legend, why humans love stories of lost time, and how fake mysteries survive for decades online. Part 6, the psychology behind the legend. Humans love mystery. We always have. When something can't be explained, our mind starts to imagine. We fill the blanks with stories, stories that make the impossible sound true. That's what happened with Flight 513. People knew it was fake, but they wanted to believe it anyway. It gave hope, hope that time isn't fixed, that maybe some people lost in history could return one day. Psychologists say this is called magical thinking. It helps people escape reality, especially when the real world feels cold and predictable, and the internet makes this even stronger. One fake post becomes a headline, one photo becomes proof. Before you know it, a myth turns into truth. Stories like Flight 513 spread because they mix two things, fear and wonder. The fear of death and the wonder of the unknown. It's not about airplanes. It's about our need to believe that something bigger is out there, something science can't explain yet. That's why the story still lives today. Not in airports or reports, but in people's minds. Coming next, part 7, final reflection and message. We'll close the story with what Flight 513 really teaches us about truth, belief, and how mystery can both inspire and deceive. Part 7, reflection and closing message. Flight 513 never existed. But its story still flies across decades, across screens. Because sometimes a lie told beautifully travels faster than the truth. The myth of Flight 513 is not about a plane, it's about us. How easily we believe and how rarely we check. Every click, every share, every post, it gives new life to old lies. And soon, fiction starts to feel like history. But behind this viral mystery, there's a quiet lesson. Truth doesn't shout, it whispers, you just have to listen. Stories like Flight 513 remind us, not everything unexplained is real, and not everything real gets explained. So before we hit share, before we pass another headline forward, pause for a second, ask, is it true? Because sometimes the real mystery isn't the plane that vanished, it's the truth we keep losing along the way.